Hey, everybody. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and today is October 11th, 2024. And I just finished doing my full moon in Aries video, and I saw somebody had talked about Kamala Harris's birthday being October 20th. And this is within 3 days of the full moon. So I decided to go look at her chart to see how this full moon might affect her and what it might reveal about her. So I wanted to share my findings with you. I'm going to pull up the chart. So as I pull up the chart, the first thing I want to say is that when I look at someone as an individual, I like to look at it in the Placidus house system. Because as you can see here, that Kamala Harris has a 24-degree Gemini rising, which is significant in Placidus because it puts most of that Gemini energy in her 12th house. And it makes a lot of the energy in her first house Cancerian. We can see this is her first house right here. We also see that her north node is directly on her ascendant, which makes her south node on her descendant. The south node is a karmic point that she's used to, that she's been, it's a habitual, familiar place. It happens to be in Sagittarius, which rules judges. So she has been in a position of leadership in the past, I think. And now we see that she's stretching in this lifetime to experience more Geminian energy. And for me, this is sort of going from these high positions where everything's sort of conceptual and philosophical into the valley of everyday life and how everyday people roll. This is significant because these aspects are going to get triggered by this moon. First thing I want to say is what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about I'm going to look at degrees and tell you about how they hit me. I'm going to talk about some aspects that are happening in the background of this full moon. And I'm going to talk about the year ahead as she goes. She is starting her 60th year, which puts her at a profection year of 1, which puts her in the first house of self. Of her identity, of her ego, of her ambition, her drive, her perception of herself. And this is significant because it is playing out here with this north node. So let's start with the full moon. The full moon is where the sun and the moon are in its opposition, and it's the brightest phase of the moon. It brings a culmination, it brings an illumination, it brings the end of one cycle in order to start a new cycle. This is the transit planets here on the outside. Okay, so in the darker gray circle, the lighter gray circle is Kamala's natal chart. We see that the transit moon is actually conjunct Chiron. And Chiron is the wound that we bring into this planet. And right now, Chiron is the wound of self. It's the wound of identity. It's the wound of the first house. So that plays back to the idea that Kamala's identity, who she is, how she rolls, how people see her, because this is the 11th house. This is a very public house. This is a house where the world is looking. So there's going to be a wound that is revealed about her identity. And this is in the feminine part of her. This is the moon energy. Here is her natal moon at 27 degrees of Aries, and the 27th degree is the Gemini degree. It's the last degree of Gemini where there's a mastering of speech, of thought, of, again, community, being curious, of interaction with social media, the journalists, journalism. There's so much within the Gemini energy that is an exchange of communications. We see that the moon is in an opposition to the sun, which is in conjunction with her sun. So Kamala herself was born on a full moon at 27 degrees. So again, there is this Geminian feeling underneath her Libra energy, and Libra trines Gemini. So Libra and both being air signs. So there's a lot of cerebral intellect. Libra also rules lawyers, attorneys, people who enforce peace and harmony. Now, her natal sun, 27 degrees of Libra, is conjunct her Mercury at 1 degree of Scorpio. Both of these two planets are in or on a point within the Shapley cluster called the Shapley attractor. The Shapley attractor is at 2 degrees of Scorpio. And this is a point where the soul is tasked to release false attachments within the scorpionic energy, false attachments to power, false attachments to control, false attachments to other people's money that leads to power and control, to false attachments to sex that leads to power and control, criminal behavior. When we look at the Mercury energy here, we're looking at letting go of thoughts and things, false thoughts, false things, false media, journalism, fake news. This is something she has contracted to release. Okay, so her image here is meant to release whatever is false or grand, being her south node in Sagittarius on her descendant. The challenging side of the Sagittarian energy is that it is grandioso, it is entitled, it is gluttonous, it is a know-it-all. It falls prey to luxury and to the finer things of life. So here, I think what we're seeing is that she, in this full moon, something is going to be revealed, that is going to be illuminated, that will challenge her identity. And I think it's directly related to the women in her life, to the female people that she associates with. And, or not, I don't mean outside, I mean within her family. Now, we see that the moon is in a square to Pluto transit, which is in her 8th house of transformation. This has been going on for a while. The 8th house naturally rules other people's money. We see the moon is also in a square to transit Mars in the 2nd house of my the 2nd house naturally rules money, the money I make for myself. But here, what we see is the Cancerian energy. The Cancer house rules my home and hearth, and the 2nd house of Taurus rules my self-confidence as it was created by my family. It also, the Cancer energy rules the feminine in the family. So we see this moon is squaring Mars and it's squaring Pluto. It's bringing something up from the underbelly, something that is, when I look at the Mars energy, I feel as if it's something that could potentially be underwater, some action potentially underwater, or it could represent a man within the feminine line or within a part of her family, that there's something that must come out about, some sort of something is being unearthed. Capricorn rules history, and it's squaring the moon in her identity. And we see that meaning Pluto is squaring, bringing something from the surface, something that's been hidden, something that's not necessarily favorable. Pluto is actually making a square over to the sun here. So we'll see that in a minute, which is triggering these two planets here. Now, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Let me go back to the moon real quick. Because the moon is making favorable, very slight favorable aspects, but sextiles to her ascendant and to her Saturn. And I think what this is saying is that there could potentially be an opportunity for her to, Saturn is retrograde in its own house, in the house of Aquarius. At 28 degrees, we're looking at the Cancerian degree. We're looking at her north node. She may have an opportunity through something tense that is directly hitting her sun and her Mercury. She may, if she's willing to be authentic and articulate and explain, because I think something's going to come out about her family or her lineage. Now, I know that Candace Owens has been digging into her ancestry as a result of a comment that Janet Jackson made about, I don't know what the comment was. So, because I try to stay out of this stuff, but there is something going on about Candace's ancestry. Now, I bring that up because Jupiter is retrograde in her 12th house of her childhood. Okay, the 12th house rules our childhood. Jupiter rules publishing, branding, writing, and it's in the sign. So details have been missed in some way. And potentially there could be a reveal of something that's been exaggerated or something that's been made bigger than it is, a childhood that's more diverse. Jupiter rules diversity. And then we see that her south node is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is in in the 12th house, retrograde 24 degrees at which is in a quincunx to her south node. This Jupiter, her natal Jupiter, makes me feel as if this represents her having a foreign background. Yes, a foreign history, but she's writing about it, but she's telling the story backwards. We know the 24th degree is the Piscean degree. Pisces rules lyrics, it rules fantasy, it rules illusion. Something I really believe that this full moon is going to reveal something about her lineage, her home, her family. Here is Jupiter, I'm sorry, not Jupiter, Uranus is retrograde, about to have a conjunction, this unexpected reveal that brings up something from the book that she's written about, I think it's her autobiography here, that conflicts with the story that she's told. And it conflicts with the story that here's Saturn, 24 degrees, and I'm sorry, Saturn is 28 degrees Aquarius on her midheaven, squaring her natal Jupiter. I feel like something's coming out about her history that's going to be more revealing than it has been before. And we see that she has, hold on, let me get off of Jupiter. I want to go to the sun aspects because I thought this was interesting. So here's the sun at 24 degrees of Libra, which is on the fixed star Spica, the voice of angels. The full moon, honestly, is encouraging Kamala Harris to be authentic about her childhood and to release any false attachments that she has of how outside government will respond to her authenticity. When she goes into a 1 year of perfection, this could be an opportunity because of a reveal of something challenging that she can rebrand herself almost, in a more innocent way, or in a way like, she was not fully aware of everything that was going on behind the scenes. Because I feel when I look at the way that her sun trines Saturn, I feel like there's the potential that there are people that are running the show that make her think she knows stuff, but she doesn't. Libra is, the sun is in fall in Libra. It is not strong. So it's supposed to focus on other people. And here it would be the people, the community, the neighborhood, the people of it's even in the fifth house, the children. She's meant to focus on the children and release any false attachments to any power and control that is not moving the story forward into the future. And this transit Pluto has been squaring that and creating a lot of challenges for her. Now we see that transit Mars is doing the same thing, where there is suddenly, there could be aggression towards her or some anger towards her or how she's run the country. This is very powerful as this information comes out. Now, let's just say that it has to do with her heritage and the blackness of her. And that could really inflame a lot of Black women, which could be the square of Pluto and Mars. And we see again, her natal sun has a quincunx, a blind spot. And this is where she is creative in this house of Libra and Scorpio. And there is a hidden factor with Scorpio. There is something that's going to be hidden underneath. So I really think that she is going to be challenged by this full moon to back up or substantiate many of her statements about her heritage. The 12th house rules our ancestors, our soul's history in relation to our ancestral experiences. When we look at the first house, we're looking at the identity that created. The way that, again, what we perceive, how we look, our perceptions. So here, this tells me that she's Geminian for sure. And at the same time, there is this Cancer energy to me feels as if this is where her patriotism for country comes, or where she's attached to her home, the mother story, I shouldn't have said it patriotism, because she's even though she was born in America, her parents are foreign. So I think this is what we're talking about, is her traditions and her origins here. So, and then when we go into the second house, we see this is a lot about her self-worth, her family history, how she was shaped as a result of that. So this is a powerful time for her, with a first house profection year of re-identifying herself, and then this illumination. I don't know, honestly, if she knew she was going to assume this presidential candidate's position, but I do think that she would like it. I think that she would like to lead the people and be seen as a leader, and somebody who is a good communicator. The challenge is that very subtly, the South Node is just in her seventh house. And so she really does tend to be very broad and very different in the way that she thinks. Very much she would think foreign to what most of us, her philosophies or ideologies would be very multicultural, there could be multi-religions involved there, and such. Now, let me click off the sun for a minute, because I'm going to click on transit Jupiter real quick. And we see that transit Jupiter is making a square to her fourth house. And right now it's hitting Pluto and Venus, but Uranus is in here at 13 degrees. And as Jupiter retrogrades, it's going to square these three planets. So whatever is revealed is going to have to do with her home, is going to have to do with the Virgonian energy of service to others, and how that her service to others and how that relates to home. Also, we see again this Venus energy, which plays back to the female energy of the moon being conjunct her natal moon. And then we see there's a square and a half here. So this is interesting to me, because it's a very challenging dynamic to have Venus in such a tight conjunction with unexpected dark things, potentially criminal things coming up in the house of the home. And if that has to do with any publishing that she's done, here we see the Jupiter trine, and this is Jupiter in her natal chart. So she might have thought, it's not a problem. I can just, embellish a little bit and no one's going to notice. And now we see transit Jupiter bringing up this in a square, which could really basically bite her in the rear end. I'm telling you, this is a little bit challenging for her. Now, One of the other things that I want to bring up is Uranus on her natal Jupiter. This Uranus on her natal Jupiter is in a trine to transit Pluto, but it's in a square to her natal Mars. This Mars is in the third house of Leo. This is writing unexpected things that could happen, because this Mars could be she moved too fast trying to do this, or I don't know when this book was published. I never read it. Again, I'm just seeing Candace Owens on and what she's been publishing about what she's discovered down her ancestry.com rabbit hole. And we also see how Uranus is triggering a square over here to Saturn. So again, I think something is playing out here that has to do with potentially some sort of embellishment in that is crucial. And it's crucial because it plays to the African American or the dark brown female of America who has identified with her and been empowered by what she represents. And now it's looking like maybe what she represents isn't quite what she purported. Now, the other thing that's happening, which I think is very powerful, is here is transit Saturn in her 10th house of career and public status and social reputation, and it is retrograding over her Chiron, and it will be over her Chiron during the election, and it is absolutely opposing all of her natal planets here. This to me feels like there's going to be information that comes out during this full moon that she will not be able to hide from. She won't be able to pretend that it's not true, and this is going to come down on her rather dramatically, in my opinion, because we have an exact opposition to Uranus. Unexpected lightning bolts of information that trigger not only her wound, but if she's been foggy and deceptive about her public status, how she'll rule the company. Saturn rules the company. I mean, rules the country. Saturn literally rules the country. Saturn is the president, is the man, is the ultimate authority. So overall, I think that Kamala Harris has a bit of information that might make her campaign a little bit more challenged moving forward. We'll see how it plays out, but this is why I like to look at things in Placidus, because the rising sign and the house structure is so incredibly important to telling a deeper story, something that can give us something to hang on to. So let me know. I make no comments here about, who is good or who is bad. This simply comes down to her Jupiter transit, because Jupiter is in detriment in Gemini, and it is in retrograde in her 12th house in her natal chart. So I just think something's coming out about her history, her life, her ancestry, her DNA, her lineage, and that will change our viewpoint about how we perceive her. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hopefully you don't all hate on me. I've never done this before. I'm tipping my toe into a political video, so be gentle with me. All right, everybody, like, subscribe, and share. Thanks. Bye.